Hey folks, welcome to the Rain channel. Patrick Francie here, and I am joined by a good friend and trusted partner of the Real Estate Investment Network, Mr. Simeon Papailias, co-founder and CEO of REC Canada.
How are you, sir? Nice to
I'm
see you.
fantastic, Simeon. Hey, listen, buddy, we are going to talk about what the heck is going on in Toronto and area. The headlines are blazing. Twitter is all fired up. The world's coming to an end. Tell us what's going on in Toronto. I mean, there's deals, in the condo market, particularly showing up all over the place, people trying to get out of trouble. What's your take on it? You're in the trenches every single day. Tell us what's really going on from your
Yeah,
perspective.
so there's a truckload of stuff going on. First and foremost, I want to thank you and your entire team for making it happen this last weekend. We had our second REC Canada Real Estate Marathon, which is a 5-hour event featuring obviously what we believe is our country's best resources and talent in the space. Meaning, you came and spoke kind of to the overview of what's happening coast to coast. And kind of the sentiment and everything that's taking place for our REC insiders, for the 12,000, close to 12,000 people who depend on our advice. So thank you for that and making it happen. There is a lot going on. Vancouver just brought their own version of Ontario's Bill 23 into play. That's going to be effective whenever. But again, we can't look at real estate from a short-term view. This is now presenting Ontario and now Vancouver and the cities that will follow. They present the biggest real estate opportunity ever in this country. We can literally go 4x the footprint of the city. So if every single family home in Ontario or in Vancouver that qualifies, we're talking about over 500,000 homes here that are readily available to be, as of right, converted from a single family home to up to a 4-plex, 5-plex, depending on the zoning of the specific micro market.
Right.
But Toronto, Ontario led the way with that, trying to bring some kind of reins and on affordability, especially specifically for rental stock. That's what this is all about. Rental rates have skyrocketed 45%, 40% in the year and a half, 45% in the rolling 24 months. 45%.
Yeah.
Revenues to the consumer, meaning their jobs, have not gone up by 45%.
Well, it's an interesting time, isn't it? Because to your point, this is such an opportunity for real estate investors, but the psychology of it makes people shut down, makes them kick over to the sidelines and even ignore real estate altogether, thinking that there's going to be a significantly huge collapse. Yet when we look at the fundamentals that drive real estate, which include population growth, which includes employment growth, which includes immigration, that drive that, and affordability. So let's just talk this through a little bit. As investors, what are we trying to do? We're trying to put our capital to work. We want to look into the future and say, where is real estate going? We don't really care where it's been or even where it is today. We have to look into the future. So when we look into the future, what we know is that the rental demand, who is our clients, that's the product we're selling or trying to provide, is not going away. Even if they cut our immigration in half, we still aren't hitting the numbers of supply that we need. So the point is that if I'm going into business and we're treating our real estate investing like a business, ultimately, what are we trying to say? Well, I want to make sure I've got clients. If I'm in any business, what if I know there's a lineup of clients to take on my product? Well, that's what the scenario is. And that's there for a number of reasons. Affordability being one of them. Interest rates, which we know are shorter term, generally, even if it's the next couple of years, means that people can't get into the housing market. They can't buy that home that they want. And so they're going to rent. And something that I think that needs to, it's a good time to shine a light on it, Simeon, and you know this one. Average household income in terms of a tenant profile has gone up significantly. You're attracting a way different demographic of tenant because you can have a household income of a couple $100,000, but if they don't have a down payment, if they don't qualify for current mortgage rates, what are they doing? They're renting, which opens up the door to buy really great quality real estate to rent to an end user consumer. And I know it's a little bit long-winded, but I wanted to give some context for it, because when we look at the future, this is the opportunity. And many are, it's the old case of, when the herd's going left, stop. Look who's leading that herd. And then everybody's just blindly following. It's our job to go right and do it mindfully, thoughtfully. It's not a case of just throwing money up against the wall.
And that's exactly it. The message that we promote has not changed in the least. The strategies that we're deploying have changed drastically, because each market has its own strategies. Each cycle of the market, I should say, not each market. But the bottom line here is that there's more opportunity now in this country than has ever been. And there's going to be a lot more. And the skill right now is how to identify what market to invest in, the type of product you're investing in. We've been on a Hamilton rager for a year, meaning that Jazz and I only launch, like when I say launch, the new condo launches, that's the only thing that's scalable that can be sold to an audience like yours. Meaning at scale, I have 10, 20, 30 units. Other than that, we have to get into a car and go look at income properties.
Yeah.
Income properties right now are suffering, meaning that the rents, although skyrocketed at 40%, the actual expenses of the property, unless you do a huge value add, there's still big money in those. But right now, the traditional burr is suffering in this market because of those rates being so high. But what we can do in these types of markets, because all those investors who already have them, they can go through because they've had such massive equity gains over the last 3 years, in the rental gains as well, where they're still sound. People are like, oh no, they're all going to fall apart. No, they're not. Maybe 1% of the 1% who bought in the last 2 months when the wave was cresting, sure, but that's every market. You have that small fringe of investor that gets hurt because you can't time it. Nobody knows the time.
Well, I think there's a couple different aspects to it too, right? Is that, are you investing? Are you being sophisticated? Have you got a system? Have you got a process? Are you working with somebody, or are you being a speculator? Which a lot of the news that we're getting right now, let's face it, Simeon, is a lot of the news we're getting is from those individuals who thought they were real estate geniuses and they were speculating in the market. The music stopped, in the game of musical chairs, when the music stopped, somebody is left standing. And that's what happened a lot. Let's transition a little bit of the conversation. When you look at, you've got a portfolio, I've got a portfolio, we have to make our own decisions. I mean, we're at the same effect of interest rates and all that's happening in the market as anybody who's considering it. I've worked with thousands of real estate investors over the past 20 years, as have you. We look at education. We look at how do we support investors in winning along the way. And, 40 years of business, I can tell you, I've been through at least 4, maybe 5 different recessions. And so I get the psychology behind all of it, where you just can get locked in fear and not want to do anything. And so, what I've learned over the years is to surround yourself with individuals who've been there, done that, gone before you, have gone through these scenarios. But this is, to your point that you made earlier, Simeon, this is really an opportunity. And it doesn't even take that much courage. What it does take is some effort to actually tap into the opportunity, which again, it's why REC Canada is a trusted partner. You guys have deals. You're in the market every single freaking day. And right now, part of your focus is on Hamilton because of the economic fundamentals that are driving that market.
And that market is just absolutely incredible. And what's to further bolster it, just like there's that group of speculating retail investors, like regular people, they thought it was all easy. It's just going to go on forever. And without taking into account stress testing their portfolio, what happens if I lose my job? What do I do? Is there a plan in place? There's a million things to think about. But just like them, there is speculating developers.
Yeah.
There is the junior developer. It's like me pretending I'm a developer tomorrow. I'm not. Yeah. I'm a broker. I've built custom houses. I've participated and bought some shares in some developments. I've done quite a few things. But have I developed from A to Z? The answer is no. And I never would. What I would do is I would work for a developer for 5 years before I even thought that I would do it, to see the mistakes, to see a full cycle.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a joke. We're talking about millions. Now,
well, I think,
go ahead. Where I'm going with this is in Hamilton about 3 years ago, maybe 2020, end of 2020, beginning of 2021, I sold 9 sites across Hamilton to developers. I'm a commercial broker by trade. I don't sell homes. My team sells homes. So I sold sites. Half of these guys was their first site. What I just saw now in Stories, the real estate publication, I don't know if you've ever run across it's a digital magazine. Storeys, Stories. And there's a link in there. Toronto has had 2,000 units delay or cancel, which is not a lot for Toronto. It's a far. Guess who else had 2,000 units cancel? Hamilton. Rhetorical question. So Hamilton is seeing probably a third of its anticipated projection wiped off the map because the builders cannot hang on for another 3-4 years that it's going to take to develop it at these interest rates. What does that do to the existing developments? They're going to skyrocket. The reason they're building all these buildings because the demand is there. Massive studies go underway. Infrastructure projects get started. It's not like they don't know where Hamilton is headed.
I think that's it. But let's not step over that. You have to consider where Hamilton is headed. As a city, why are we even looking at Hamilton? Why do we why do we continue to consider Hamilton a place to put your capital? And that is because that city has an economic future. It has a economic development team. They see a future and they're stepping into it. They're leaning into it. So when we look at what's happening in Toronto and you look at where Hamilton is as proximity, people are going to gravitate to Hamilton, if nothing else, just that little bit better affordability as an example, but also the opportunities, the jobs, the infrastructure, the future of where Hamilton is going. So I think it's really important to shine a light on that. It's not just because developers. It's the developers are there because they're seeing a future, because they are looking at what's happening as a city and what they're developing. Precisely. And I know that I want to just pump your tires a little bit. I mean, one of the things and one of the reasons that REC Canada and you and your team are part of REIN as a trusted partner is because you think like we do. You're not talking about speculating. You're talking about long-term relationships with investors. You want a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and you actually kind of, hold up the hand, if you will, to speculators who want to get in and get out and say, well, I just want to assign this deal. And you're going, no, that's not the way we do business. If you're
that's not a real estate strategy. That's a gambling strategy.
It's a gambling strategy, exactly.
So not only do we not like I'm not going to make you sign a waiver that I told you not to do that. I won't sell it to you. I don't want to be part of your story. Mm-hmm. Because your story is going to be a reckless one. If you're investing and your actual strategy is to assign to get out of a deal, that means you can't go into the deal.
Yeah.
And you're telling me up front. So it's like, no, thank you. I want no part of this. There's many realtors who can take care of you. Trust me. But
so
no,
the thing is around
story, I just wanted to touch one last thing about Hamilton because it's so significant. So the biggest way of finding deltas in any market, because Hamilton is not the only market in Canada that works. That's in our market. It works. We actually have an event that I'll speak to in a few minutes. But when analyzing any market, when you look at Vancouver, in a 2-bedroom goes, just call it for $3,000.
Yeah.
And you look at Surrey, and it goes for $2,800. Mm-hmm. If the delta in pricing of the acquisition of the property, if in Vancouver it's $2 million, and in Surrey it's 1.5, the delta is healthy. Surrey is the greater investment. Mm-hmm. In this case, rents with Toronto and Hamilton are literally $150 off. But the prices are about $200,000 off.
Right.
$250 off, which is why Hamilton people are going to in droves. That is what's driving it. It's that affordability with the same type of rent. The rent is so high because there is none. There is too big of a demand for rental, which is why the government's taken off GST. They're doing everything they can to figure out a strategy to appease rental stock. Bill 23 aimed to do the same thing. If everybody were to adopt it, you would 4x a city's density. So
Now,
that is what's happening. Those are the markets you need to look at and dive into and analyze. Purchase price to rental ratio. If you find a delta, that's where you want to go.
okay, so one of our listeners, Tony, we'll get you links. Simeon and I did this a little bit impromptu, so I'll make sure I get links and I'll put it in the description or in the chat somewhere so that, finding out where REC Canada is as well. You've got an event you want to talk about that's coming up, I think, this Thursday. Tell us a little bit about that event, and then you can send me all those links so we can get people in there.
Yeah, so this is an event. You have to be. I will act as your broker. It is a broker event. Specifically, they're rolling out a certain number of suites to their platinum brokers for their top clients. So this is a client event.
Okay.
So any and all RAIN members that want to attend, I'm going to get you a link for them to register on. And it's Thursday night. It's in Burlington, and it's in Toronto's the west suburbs. So on between Toronto and Hamilton, Burlington is the city right before Hamilton. For those who don't know, it's at the Burlington Convention Center. We expect 50 to 100 people. It's a pretty limited to who's available for these units. We do have 100. There's cashbacks and closings. The deal structure is enabled to the investor. This is 100% investor focused audience. In the terms and the structure of how the payments go in, what's required is extremely, extremely of benefit to the investor. So it's a great event to attend.
Okay, so Simeon, if somebody can't make it because they're too far out or it's too short a notice or whatever the reason is, will there be a way for them to kind of look at the deal and follow up anyways, or is this you got to be there to get the deal?
No, 100%. Every person in there would be represented by their broker. In this case, I will act as your audience's broker. I can definitely share the package with you. I can share it. What I can do is I can share it in advance. Those initiatives are all for that night. So I'll get it in front of your team, and you guys. Can we get a link for RAIN, please?
Yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. Hopefully they can make it. Some of them can make it. That'll be great. I know it's short notice, but it would be a pleasure to have any of and all of your members.
Well, fantastic. Well, we'll continue to push this out. Hopefully, if you're on this, watching it, we'll make sure we get links put into the description of the stuff. Simeon, anything you want to add before we close down? I know you got another meeting, so I just appreciate your time.
Man. I mean, everybody out there, I just want people to know how real, we have it, the way we share the data. I am right now in my inbox. I have an offer from Equitable Bank. Equitable Bank is a B lender, and that's how I get my mortgages because I have more than a few mortgages. But my choices, and for everybody to just understand, there's so much choice that even in this market, we have things to pick from. My offer came in as a 1 year closed at 7.69. That is today, Monday, September 25th, 2023. That is my reality. When I did my due diligence for this unit, I used 3.89, being super conservative. But I still could not have the magic, the crystal ball to tell me. So am I going to be underwater on this? Yes, for the short term. But the real estate fundamentals of buying in neighborhoods that are changing over, going from old apartment stock to brand new condos that are surrounded by highways, universities, and shopping centers. I'm talking about Yorkdale Mall. I'm talking about the university that's 10 minutes north of it, York University. I'm talking about the entire air base that was converted to residential. I bought that thing for $489,000 3 years ago. Still in this market, it's worth $650. So am I going to nurse a few bleeding months? Yes, because I have the luxury to do so. But even if I didn't, I can refinance at today's value with an appraisal and take, even if the money's expensive, for a year. I can still take money out where it doesn't cost me a nickel out of my own real money.
Sure.
All I'm trying to prove, all I'm trying to say is that today I'm signing up for a mortgage that closes on October 4th.
Yeah.
If it was anybody who did not understand real estate and investing, they would be crying, screaming, and kicking what happened. I'm still going to profit now because I'm going to pull more money out of it than I put in.
Can't beat that. This is about strategy. This is about a plan. This isn't about gambling and speculating. This is about investing. And again, I can't stress enough, folks, this is an opportunity, but you have to think strategically. You have to put a plan together, and then you have to execute on that plan, which means you need to have the right team in place and then move methodically, pragmatically, systematically through the process so that you know every step of the way that you're clear. This isn't throwing money into a market and hoping. This is actually being very strategic in your thought processes. Simeon, no better team to work with than REC Canada. I want to thank you for your time. As always, love your insights. I mean, you're in it. You're in the trenches every day. No better source.
I truly believe, Patrick, like we could make, honestly, we could make a case study out of my closing right now to prove how careful buying, doing the due diligence and buying carefully in projects that meet all, not some, but all the fundamentals of real estate work no matter what, any market, any time, because the fundamentals cannot be changed. So if anybody's wondering how, this is exactly what we're teaching on Thursday night. We're teaching that in person and live in Burlington. If I can actually coordinate a camera on short notice, maybe I'll take it live or record it and bring it out after.
Yeah.
Because there's an educational component. Forget it. Like
I know, and that's so important. So important.
We'll try to get the education portion at least recorded and put out, because the speaker is, you've actually met Cash Pashutin, I believe, the founder of Emblem.
Yes.
He's going to be there, and he's one of the best speakers I have ever heard. I love hearing him speak.
Yeah.
I'll try to get it for the membership.
Fantastic.
And I also got a link over to you now. If you want to share it now or after the description, Bobby was here and he got us a link for everybody here.
Fantastic. I'll make sure we get through and get that link put in where it needs to be. Simeon, thanks for your time. As always, my friend, appreciate it.
As always, God bless.